Arthur?
Yeah, Arthur hilarious.
And off we go, ladies and gentlemen. Another 4 of the 4 most electrifying hours in sports talk entertainment underway. Welcome in the Rob Brown Show, back on your radio, live from ACC Media Days, day numero dos. Getting underway here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Happy Wednesday to all you. See, it's weird. It feels like a Tuesday because I got here yesterday. I did the first show yesterday. Got up and going today. Forgot we did a show Monday. Feels like Tuesday is actually Wednesday. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Nothing matters except college football, people. Day number 2 of ACC Media Days underway now from Charlotte, North Carolina, and we are thrilled to be here with you, thrilled to have you along for the ride. We have got plenty that we need to get to from yesterday, plenty that we need to talk about from yesterday, because what an interesting day we had yesterday here at day number 1. We had Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the Atlantic Coast Conference, give some of his thoughts. Did about a 57-minute commissioners forum yesterday. I pulled a bunch of sound from that I will play for you coming up later on in the radio broadcast. Jim Phillips talked a little bit about the current and future state of the ACC. He gave some updates on some policy changes. He kind of gave a very fluffy silver linings view on where this conference is, what he thinks this conference can do, where this conference is going. We also had yesterday a number of coaches come through, including Rhett Lashlee, who kind of threw a couple of pot shots at the Southeastern Conference from the podium here at ACC Media Days. Or let me put it this way, because can I tell you a bit of an issue that I'm having at Media Days this week, and honestly last week for the SEC Media Days as well. And I think that this is an issue that is kind of becoming more and more pervasive across the sports talk landscape. And yes, there is nothing I love doing more on my sports talk radio show than whining, moaning, and complaining about how other people do their sports talk radio shows.
Wait, are you about to be disparaging of the media?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm gonna keep it a buck. You're gonna do that like under your breath, half chuckle kind of thing that you do when I say things that you know that I am saying to make you laugh.
It's really hard to get me to laugh out loud. It's not.
I'm aware. I've only done it 4 times since I started working here. It's been like 4 years. I'm averaging like one good hearty Lonzo laugh a year at this point.
No smiling, no laughing. It's a childhood thing. So
I was sitting here about 15 minutes ago, putting together the sports flash, getting everything ready for the show today. The last little run through of our daily preparations before we came on the air. And I was listening to the radio talk show host that was on the air right before us. The young man hosting the Pat Boyle show, which was today, not Pat Boyle. And the young man hosting the Pat Boyle show today seemed like a very lovely, pleasant young man doing his best. And I respect that.
I think it's amazing that you can recognize his youth from the sound of his voice.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic tone, pacing to the show, and none of that part's a joke, sincerely. Like, I think Mark Ryan is one of the most talented people in the game. This has never been a secret. But he had a take that I think sucked. And if we were on the radio together still, I would tell him on his own show or I'd tell him on mine. I think his take sucked. He had a take on Kelsey Plum from the WNBA. And
wait, who?
Kelsey Plum, probably one of the top 4 or 5 most popular players from the WNBA.
Does she sell produce?
Lonzo, this is going to be a point of contention between you and I, because the reality is I could find the Lady Michael Jordan tomorrow and you still wouldn't watch. So it is
no,
pointless.
The Lady Michael Jordan has a groin injury right now. That's why she's not playing. And according to the fine young man that you're talking about, ratings dropped 52% while she's not playing.
Do. This is right. None of that is the take I have a problem with.
Okay, all right.
Here's the take that I have a problem with. I understand, yes, the ratings go down dramatically when Caitlin Clark is unavailable. I am not going to dispute that or try to push back against that. Yes, merch sales, ticket sales, they all drop dramatically when Caitlin Clark is out. That's not the take that ticked me off. The take that ticked me off was Kelsey Plum, who was an all-star on Team Caitlin Clark, after the all-star game came out and said that when the decision was made for the WNBA All-Stars to wear those "pay us what you owe us" shirts that they wore out onto the court before the WNBA All-Star game, Kelsey Plum said none of the members of Team Clark were there when that decision got made.
Okay, just for I just going to interrupt for just a second. Can you talk about her tone and the things that she said before she said that?
How about I get to the take and then we'll address that, because I don't have it, and I'm saying that respectfully because I'm putting you, as you clearly told me you were this morning, you're in Mark Ryan's camp on this one, which I think is the first, and I get it.
It's not a first, but anyway, I am achieving a goal. By the way, you are now out talking that dude.
Yeah,
who was bleeding in.
I just picked up that I'm being a little aggressive with this, but there's a reason for that, and I will stand on business, as the people say. Okay, so here is what infuriated me. We can talk about tone, and we can talk about intent, and we can talk about this and that, and Lord knows we have had plenty of problems in the world of sports broadcasting when people begin to infer tone as more important than message, right? Like if you need to say, well, how did he say it? How did she say it? Then what you're saying is I'm disregarding the message, and I would rather try to make the message say what I want it to say instead of what the person was saying. All Kelsey Plum said was, when the message to wear those shirts was delivered, we weren't there. That wasn't a decision we or Team Clark were active in. And for some reason, my former colleague Mark Ryan twisted this.
She said they weren't there.
Correct.
You said we.
She's on Team Clark. She said Team Clark was not there when the decision got made. She was on Team Clark. That is
okay.
we.
All right.
Right.
That's well, I guess.
So
I misunderstood. I apologize.
All good. So she said Team Clark was not a part of that decision. She's on Team Clark. So she said we weren't there when that decision got made. And somehow, I don't know how, and I would love to hear him extrapolate a little bit, but somehow that turned into a Kelsey Plum is talking junk about Caitlin Clark take.
Well, let me just say, I know you were at ACC Media Day, so you probably didn't notice, but it's been everywhere on TV and everywhere. His take, so it's not not that he doesn't have original takes. He may not. But yeah, it's everywhere.
I understand
that.
And it's not the first time I've heard it. It's just the first time I've heard it 3 minutes before I came on the radio. And so, yes, it's like emotionally raw for me. It's also the first time I've heard it from someone that I know. This is the same. If I was sitting at a bar with the boys tonight in Charlotte and one of my fellas said this, I'd have the same reaction and we'd have the same conversation. There is, and the reason that this one hits home to me, and I swear to you, when I'm done with this conversation, we're going straight to ACC football.
Yeah, because this segment's getting pulled.
100%, and that's okay, and I'm ready for it. Bring it. I'll have this conversation with anybody anytime, and I can say that because about 3 weeks ago, I was hosting BetMGM Tonight with a guy from the BetMGM network named Jared Smith, who I very much like working with. Jared, he's a great dude. We had some incredible conversations, both on and off the air. But Jared told the story of Kelsey Plum at an LA Sparks game a number of weeks ago, where a young lady was sitting on the sideline of the warm-ups before a Sparks game. Caitlin Clark and the Fever were not there for that game. They were playing somebody else. And there was a lady sitting on the sideline of the LA Sparks game wearing a Caitlin Clark shirt. And Kelsey Plum went to the Sparks bench, that's the team she plays for in Los Angeles, grabbed a Sparks t-shirt, a team-issued t-shirt, walked over to the bench where the fan wearing a Caitlin Clark shirt was, and handed her the shirt and said, "Do better." Now, that turned into this like big dramatic thing, right? Like, oh, Kelsey Plum, like there's a Caitlin Clark fan, then you're telling her do better. You just hate Caitlin Clark, blah, 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 blah. And I said, Jared, and I called him out on the air for this, just like I would with Mark Ryan, and asked to have the conversation. I said, quick question, did you see the rest of that interaction? Did you see the video of that interaction? Or are you just reading the one quote and deciding that you know what Kelsey Plum meant? And he goes, oh, well, no, I didn't really see the rest of the video. And I said, great. Because I did. I went and I found it. And if you watch this video, which you see, is that Kelsey Plum in warmups walks over to this young lady, hands her the shirt and says, "Do better," and is laughing when she does it. And then she gives the young lady her hand, picks her up off the bench, walks her out onto the court, takes a picture with her, has a conversation with her. They kind of laugh and joke. She gives her like the one-arm side hug, pats her on the back, and is like, "Seriously, have a great time tonight." She's like very cordial. It was very clearly a joke of a player giving an away team, an away fan, a t-shirt of the team whose floor she's sitting on for warmups and making a joke. And what I did ask Jared, and I would ask Mark Ryan and anybody else who decides that, oh, I don't, admittedly in the conversation, he goes, "I don't watch, I don't pay attention, I don't follow." Then why are you commenting negatively?
All right.
Hang on, let me get this point, and then I want to hear what you have to say, because this part is important to me. Kelsey Plum and Caitlin Clark are friends. They hang out. Literally, anytime they play each other, they walk each other off the court arm in arms. They are friends with each other. And this is why when I hear somebody like Jared or I hear somebody like Mark Ryan who self-admittedly do not watch the league and do not care about the league, if you don't watch it and you don't care about it, why are you going out of your way to take a dump on it? And the answer is because it is. I'm not saying it's anywhere near as popular as any other professional American sport, but it is clearly gaining traction and attention. And I don't know why that's a problem to you, but if you don't watch it and you don't pay attention to it, then why is it you've got all this space in your show for the negative commentary of, oh, they all hate Caitlin Clark and they hate this and they hate that and they're all bad people? Why do you have room for that in your show? But I got $1 to a donut that if Asia Wilson scores 50 tomorrow for the Aces, it won't make your show. You won't talk about it. You won't talk about it when things go well in that league, but you'll jump in line to come defend Caitlin Clark from an attack from her own friend. Stop. If you're not going to watch the league and you're not going to talk about the league when it's trending positively, then don't turn around and run a segment like that where you crap on the league and its players and you have no idea the context of the conversation you're having because you admittedly don't watch and don't care. It's just bad take.
All right, so you said no. Well, I just looked it up and I'm just looking at headlines. People.com, Kelsey Plum sparks outrage for dig at Team Caitlin Clark after the T-shirt thing. Let's see. Colin Cowherd offers harsh criticism to Kelsey Plum for calling out Caitlin Clark. I'm trying to pick all these places that you would immediately go that's a right wing thing.
Here's the I don't care about any of that. Let me make sure that I set up the context of this conversation correctly. And I do want to make sure, I want to make sure that I am getting it right as well, because I'm going to keep it a buck. I was out and about. I didn't watch the WNBA All-Star game. I am a supporter. I have talked about it. I didn't watch it. I had stuff going on. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to watch it.
Listen, I'm not trying to cause a problem, but according to you, if you didn't watch it, you can't talk about it. I mean, that's what you just said.
Is that Lonzo? Is that what I said, or did I say?
I think we all heard it. If you think he said it, text us or get us on the stream. By the way, we are live.
Did I say? If you don't watch it, I said I don't watch the All-Star game. I said I didn't watch the All-Star game. You know what I did do last night? I sat downtown at a brewery called Hot Fly with my dear friend Jeremy, and we watched the New York Liberty play. Okay, so I do watch it. That's the whole take. Is I got a lot of people who have a lot of conversation about this league.
Well, there wasn't anything else on last night, so of course.
Well, it doesn't matter if the greatest show in the history of television was last. I watched it, and so
thank you, Keegan, for coming to his defense. Part of the circle.
It's again, like if I was to sit here and I don't watch anime, Lonzo, but if I came in every day and I did a segment where I went, Lonzo's animes are stupid and I hate them and they're bad storylines and they don't make sense. And you went, well, did you watch an episode? And I went, no. Then you would go, shut up. Shut up. What's the point? Why are you talking about
I would never tell you to shut up. That's rude. And I hate when people do that. Listen, if you told me to shut up, I probably would leave.
Exactly. But
which is why I wouldn't tell someone else to shut up.
Here's this situation where you have somebody who in the same breath says, I don't watch this league. I don't care about this league. This league's irrelevant. It's all about Caitlin Clark. It's all about whatever. He has all these things to say about Kelsey Plum. And I do want to correct myself. There is a reason this is a story, which is that Kelsey Plum was on Team Collier, not Team Clark. Again, I didn't watch the All-Star game, which is why I didn't come in here and have a bunch of hot takes about the WNBA All-Star game, because I didn't watch it, right? So the point that she was making was, and this is more about defending the league, because the league has to, even though Caitlin Clark is making the league, this is more about the league. She is going to defend the league while it's going through a collective bargaining agreement with the WNBA to get a bigger split of the revenue share. And the point she is making is, we had this message that we wanted to put out there. We did not get the, like, Team Clark was not there to be a part of us deciding to spread this message. If anything, I would say in this moment that she is almost kind of to some degree protecting Caitlin Clark, or at least separating her from what was the most contentious part of that All-Star game, which were the T-shirts. That here we are a week later, everybody's still talking about the T-shirts. Everybody's got a hot take. They don't deserve it. They do deserve it. Well, it's revenue share, not profit share. They should get more. They should get less, whatever. Everybody have your take. The only point that I am making is I just don't understand why it is that someone would come into the arena of the conversation and put somebody on blast with a very, I'll say, not so nuanced take about something that they don't watch and actively acknowledge they don't participate in.
All right. I have a couple points here. One, he's on national radio, so he's talking about what the nation is talking about. And I am defending him to this point. And you know how that works on national radio. The producers pretty much come up with the topics. So he is talking about what they told him to talk about. Here's the other thing is, I'm very disappointed in you and the fact that guy's still out talking to you. I've done everything I can to make you mad. So and that guy is still bleeding in on our stuff. I want you to be Rob Brown. Rob Brown would not allow that guy, any of his DBs, to enter into, and this conversation hopefully is going on his show right now. That's what I want.
And we'll find out. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put that one to bed. We're going to take a break for just a few minutes. And when we come back, it is day 2 of ACC Media Days, the Rob Brown Show live on location in Charlotte, North Carolina, courtesy of my dear friends at Ingles. Low prices, love the savings. We appreciate their sponsorship of last week at SEC Media Days, this week at ACC Media Days. When we come back here in just a minute, the teams on tap today, there are 6 of them on the docket: Florida State, Louisville, Syracuse, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and Wake Forest. We're going to take a look at some of the teams and the biggest questions about all 6 of them. We'll talk about individual players and whatnot. We'll also talk a little bit about Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the league, gave his hour-long forum yesterday, and there were some interesting points that I wanted to pull. We'll listen to some sound from Jim Phillips, Rhett Lashlee, Mario Cristobal, Carson Beck, and more coming up across the next 4 hours of your life. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo. The Rob Brown Show is live from ACC Media Days in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is the Fan Upstate.
local Ingles Market.
You got this. You can win this.
I'm a fan, upstate.
The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate, live for day 2 of ACC Media Days here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Today on the docket, Florida State, Louisville, Syracuse, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and Wake Forest. We are going to be talking a little bit about these individual 6 teams, their roles within the ACC. We talked about them yesterday. I think there are effectively 3 schools that matter that are going to be in the mix today. I think there are 3 schools that could make it interesting for Clemson and for the rest of the Atlantic Coast Conference. I think there is one team that I'm very much interested in terms of being on the way up. I think there is one team that will probably be, I've got to think at some point, losing their head coach if they can't get it together, and one team that is way off in the distance that has high expectations with a new head coach coming in. And we'll break all of those down. But we will go in order of the schools as they are listed on the schedule today. Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles will take to the podium for their Q&A and State of the Union at 10 o'clock this morning, right when we get off of the air. Florida State is obviously a very interesting football team. This is a team that last year had, I would make the argument, the most disappointing season maybe in the history of that football team. 2-10 go the Noles this year. Let me talk a little bit about this team from where I come from, because obviously as I spent 12 of my 17 years now broadcasting in the Florida Panhandle, less than 2 hours away from Tallahassee, at my old station down in Destin, Florida. Florida State was kind of one of the 2 teams, along with the Mighty Gators of Florida, that we spent the most time discussing and debating. This team last year was not, disappointing is not the word to Florida State fans. Disappointing doesn't begin to describe what my friends from back home that are Florida State fans had to say about this team. It drove them to the point of apathy last year. I have been to many a game at Doak Campbell Stadium, as I, again, covered that team for many, many years. And towards the end of that year, I have never seen that stadium as pathetic as it looked. In fact, it's actually going to it's creating this interesting situation for Florida State fans, because they were so apathetic about this team towards the end of the year last year that Florida State was already having issues getting people into the stadium. They are taking, and this was already the plan before last year, because remember, they played a solid chunk of last year with a good chunk of the stadium tarped off due to renovations. They pulled like 10,000 seats out of that stadium. Again, that was already the plan, but this was a plan that had received a lot of backlash from fans. Florida State is pulling like 10,000 seats out of that stadium, and they are replacing those 10,000 seats with a lot more rich people seats in the stadium. As a matter of fact, they are putting a private and kind of luxury viewing area right behind the FSU bench that will include tables and waiters. It's very upscale, like it's $1,000 a game kind of ticket kind of setting. And Florida State fans were up in arms about that plan 2 years ago, because again, even though Florida, and I'll say this, Florida State is an interesting school in that it is a blue blood school. It is a pedigree school. It is one of the legendary institutions in college football. And it's also a really tough place to go see a home game, because not only through most of the season is it 98 degrees and 1,000% humidity in Tallahassee, there's the state capital, there's a little bit of business, and there's nothing else in Tallahassee outside of the school. And it's 2 hours from everything. It is 2 hours from the beaches of Destin, Florida, which is one of the next biggest areas. It's 5 hours away from Jacksonville, and there really isn't much in between either of those 2 locations. You got Panama City Beach is the only other area, but the majority of PCB is not, I mean, that's people from all over the place, and obviously a beach capital, a young beach capital. There's not a lot of money flowing out of that. So they have a stadium that it is already a tough place to justify going to watch a football game, especially as the prices of everything have skyrocketed over the years. And so Florida State said, look, it's hard for us to sell out a game, especially if we're not in the national championship hunt at any given time. So because of that, we're going to take out a bunch of the regular GA seats, your regular seats, and we're going to add a bunch of luxury seats because we think we will have no problem selling 1,000 seats at $1,000, where we are having problems selling 10,000 seats at $80, $90, $100. And it was a big, big issue in Tallahassee 2 years ago when they finalized this plan and they started gutting Doak Campbell Stadium to make it more of a booster-friendly stadium. This team was so bad last year that the uproar about that plan just went away. Like people stopped caring. So what is this team going to look like this year? When you are looking at a team that 2 years ago, 13-0, ACC title, 13-0, probably should have scratched that, should have been a playoff team, the only undefeated Power 5 conference champion in the entire run of Power 5 conference champions, the only one to be undefeated and not be selected to a playoff spot. We know that Mike Norvell for 2 years very heavily leaned on the transfer portal. As we talked about a little bit yesterday when we were kind of doing our offseason breakdown of all 17 teams that will play under the banner this year, that's not as true this year. Recruiting class this year is a healthy mix of high school kids and transfer portal guys that are coming in. And obviously, Tommy Castellanos, coming over from Boston College, is that number one guy. This is a cat who beat Florida State last year. Boston College knocked off Florida State last year. This is a guy that's got a bunch of history with turnovers, 14 picks in 2020 and 2023. But last year, improved his numbers, went from a 57% completion percentage in 2023 to a 62% completion percentage in 2024. And he scaled from 13 picks back down to just 5 picks 2 years ago for Boston College. Thomas Castellanos, this is a quarterback, 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns rushing for Boston College. Guy's got legs, guy's got an arm. And as we talked about yesterday, we're bringing in Gus Malzahn. Florida State brings over the former Auburn Tiger head coach who has a history of working well with dual threat quarterbacks. And Thomas Castellanos, it's not. I'm interested to see what he looks like in person because obviously when you only see these guys on TV, you can't really put into perspective what they are. Yesterday, I was bumping into Carson Beck, as yesterday was Miami's day here, day number 1 at ACC Media Days. Carson Beck is surprisingly statuesque. Though in his size and the way that he carries himself, like he is a bigger dude. He's got 1.5 inches, probably 2 inches on me. He's very well put together. He's not like built or anything, but he's very clearly in good shape. I'll just say a tailored suit fit very well on Carson Beck. I stood next to Carson Beck yesterday and I was like, damn, all right, like this kid's obviously a quarterback. 2 years ago, Thomas Castellanos was here representing Boston College at ACC Media Days. We actually did a sit-down interview with Thomas Castellanos when he was the QB at Boston College. And I do remember being impressed, obviously, with the way that he delivered his message and the way that he interviewed and the way that he talked and all that. But he didn't jump off the page as like, dude, this guy's a stud. This guy's ripped. This guy's like, he didn't look like I'd expect him to find him drinking an IPA at a craft brewery down the street from me.
Well, according to some members of the media, Patrick Mahomes has a dad bod.
Absolutely.
I mean, so what you look like doesn't necessarily have anything with your ability, but if you look good, you look good.
I mean, that's it. And I think there is some level of just looking at it and going, that's a football player. That's a quarterback. That guy's built. We were talking yesterday when we went off the air for, again, Miami Day. Miami had a defensive back here, a defensive lineman here yesterday, Francis Mauigoa, who is a Samoan. And I was making the joke to Lonzo when we went off the air because this kid had an ulafala on, which is the Hawaiian, the Polynesian ceremonial necklace. And we were making the joke because obviously we're big wrestling guys. Roman Reigns, there was a whole story about him wearing one as the tribal chief and Solo Sikoa taking it, blah, blah, blah. I made the joke after we got off the air to Lonzo that I felt it was my responsibility to go over and challenge Francis for the ulafala and declare myself the tribal chief of Miami. Hilarious joke. Until that man stood up from a table and walked past me, and the guy's an absolute monster. Like, he's a mountain of a man. So I told Lonzo, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that because if that dude breathed on me too hard, I'd probably, like, break a couple of bones. The dude's a big dude.
I still think you should have given it a shot.
Absolutely not. I'm kind of interested to see how this kid looks at, but it's not just going to be about Thomas Castellanos. Like, we're looking at the tailback situation. We're looking at the tailback situation here because this is a team that over the last couple of years has had a couple of good running backs come through, guys like Trey Benson, and they don't really have that right now. They have Jalen Lucas, who played in just 2 games for FSU, had an injury last year that kept him out of the mix. You brought in portal addition Gavin Sawchuk, 744 yards, 9 touchdowns for Oklahoma back in 2023. Didn't really get a chance to get going last year due to a quad injury. Now, where I am interested in Florida State is at the wide receiver position. They bring in Deuce Robinson from USC. He was expected to be a prodigy at USC. You bring over Squirrel White out of Tennessee. That is a loss that Tennessee fans have been talking about since he went into the portal. Squirrel White was going to be a breakout player for Tennessee. Mike Norvell recruited wide receivers exceptionally well out of the transfer portal to add to Thomas Castellanos' offense. So I don't know what to make of this team. I don't know that Mike Norvell is going to say anything today because let's be honest, even though it is a new year, and even though as we had a South Carolina Gamecock player say to us at SEC Media Days last week, this is not 2024 part 2, this is 2025 part 1. It's a new year, it's a new day, it's a new dawn, and I feeling good. This is a damage control project for Mike Norvell at Florida State. Is Mike Norvell on the hot seat right now? I think Mike Norvell is on the hot seat, right? Like, he's on the hot seat to go on the hot seat. It's not official. He's not there yet. But that is only and primarily because of the fact that they paid him so much money in that extension they gave him after he went 13-0 that they just don't have the budget right now to make that move. They will at the end of next year. So for me, this is a year where Florida State and Mike Norvell have something to prove, which means I don't really expect a lot out of him today. I don't expect a lot out of him today. I don't expect a lot of conversation from Mike Norvell about anything other than everything's great. We're amazing. Thomas Castellanos is going to be the Heisman Trophy winner, and all these guys we brought in are going to change the game. And it is good. Florida State may push the most sunshine and roses message of any of the schools that are at this event today.
Hey, did you say Juice Robinson?
Deuce Robinson.
Oh, okay. All
with
right.
a D. Yeah, different
Okay.
guy.
All right. Guy. All right.
I don't know what to make of this team. Honestly, like I've got thoughts on most. We're going to talk about Jeff Brom and Louisville coming up. We're going to talk about Fran Brown and Syracuse coming up because I really like the Fran Brown hire. I'm going to talk about Pat Narduzzi because honestly, I think Pat Narduzzi is very much on the hot seat at Pitt this year. You all know how I feel about Brent Key. I think Jake Dickert is one of the most interesting hires for a lower level team in college football this year, and we're going to get to that. But I genuinely have no idea what the hell to make out of Florida State. I can tell you the highs and lows. I can tell you Castellanos, dual threat quarterback, and I think a pretty good one. But again, does success at Boston College translate to Tallahassee, especially with this much pressure? I don't know. I can tell you the running back room is down. They do have a bunch of dudes that were trending up, but all of them got hurt. I don't know what that means. I can tell you about the offensive line where they have nobody coming back. They brought in some big names through the transfer portal that could be those dudes. I don't know. What I can tell you is I can't tell you a damn thing about this football team. Honestly, I don't know what to make of this football team this year. All right, we got a lot that we need to talk about today. When we come back here in a minute, I'm going to into play recently. They will follow whatever model it is that other conferences, specifically the SEC,